Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de Paréntesis. Hoy estoy acompañada por Lexi y Nicole, las increíbles anfitrionas de Fantasy FanGirls Podcast. Su podcast es un espacio donde los libros, los fandoms y todo lo mágico se encuentran. Fantasy FanGirls, you built such a fun and passionate community around fantasy stories. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you so much. We're so excited to be here.
Okay, to kick things off, tell me, how did Fantasy FanGirls come to life? Was there a specific book or moment where you thought, yep, this is it, we need to do this?
So about 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago,
actually about a little bit, like literally like maybe 12 months
2 years and a month,
2 weeks,
wow.
Sort of like almost exactly 1 year,
so
2 years ago. 2 years ago, yeah, 24 months.
I had picked up randomly A Court of Thorns and Roses. And it was not like I was a big avid reader. I read a lot of nonfiction for my job at the time. And I was itching for something that wasn't about the brain and neuroscience and rat studies. So I picked up ACOTAR just because the cover stood out to me and I started reading it. Absolutely fell head over heels for it. And I text my sister, Lexi, and I was like, you have no choice. You're reading this book. Like the little sister I am, I gave her absolutely zero choice.
Well, and for me, I was postpartum. My daughter was, about 8 months old at the time, and my son had just turned 2. So it was very... like I was just in it at the time. And my husband was actually out of town right then. And so that's when I just totally started listening to them on audiobook. And then I was like, oh, what is this feeling? Like this spark within me just reignited. And I used to be a huge fantasy reader growing up. And then I was really into Game of Thrones when that was, every week and all that. And so I loved all of that, but I had really lost it over the years. And this ACOTAR really ignited that for me too. And then after we read those books, we were like, I want a deep dive podcast on this. I want more. I want to learn more about the lore. And I want there was a podcast that it was no longer on the air that we had loved for that, for Game of Thrones and a few other book series, but we just couldn't find anything quite like that for ACOTAR. And so me, naively was like, hey, maybe we should start our own podcast that has this kind of content that we've been looking for. What did you say, Nicole?
No. I said no.
Really?
Yeah, you did? So I had another podcast at the time, and it's so funny because at the top of that year, 2023, I was like, I want to make podcasting much more of my full-time gig. It was my favorite part of my previous job. I loved it. And I was actually at a podcasting seminar when Lexi floated this idea at me. And I was like, no, I'm focusing on my other show. I'm pouring everything into it. It's so hard. I think it took all of 24 hours before she
it was not
down. It was not very long. And
thank God Lexi convinced
I know,
you.
Right? Thank God she's very persistent. And it was less than 2 weeks later when we launched our first episode. But we decided to change from doing ACOTAR, because that was originally what we were going to start with.
We recorded 2 episodes, of ACOTAR first.
And we switched to Fourth Wing instead. Again, something that took a lot of convincing from Lexi because I had 7 outlines of ACOTAR done.
Wow. You were practically ready for it, yeah.
Right, I was ready.
Well, and then by the time, because right after ACOTAR, that's when Nicole had started reading Fourth Wing and was like, oh my gosh, Lexi, you have to read this too. And then I devoured Fourth Wing as well. And then that is when it was like, okay, there's so much, Fourth Wing was very new and up and coming, and Iron Flame was going to be coming out in a few months. And so I was like, I think that the podcast would be better for us to launch with Fourth Wing instead of ACOTAR because there wasn't any other podcast talking about Fourth Wing. And well, we had a pros and cons list when we had a whole Zoom meeting.
We had a Zoom meeting.
It was very
about
official.
It.
Yes,
very
serious. Yeah.
Yes,
but
and
the day before we launched it, we started posting clips of the show on TikTok and Instagram, and they just started going viral right off the bat. And we were like, what's happening? Oh my God, we have never been internet personalities in the slightest. And we were expecting maybe 20 downloads the first week. For a new podcast, that was the goal. And the fact that we got 5,000 in the first week and within 3 months hit our first million was all due to social media and the word spreading so fast that there is a podcast deep diving Fourth Wing in the lead up to Iron Flame. Yeah, that's how Fantasy Fangirls started.
And I remember seeing those first episodes of Fourth Wing. For me, at least as a reader, it was amazing to see your deep dives. It allowed me to go much more into the book with your deep dives and seeing some details and theories that maybe I hadn't paid attention to. It's amazing to see because sometimes the best projects come from those spontaneous conversations and shared passions. You know, one thing I love about your podcast is how it really feels like sitting down with friends who can't stop talking about books in the best way. There are plenty of other book podcasts out there, but yours feels different. It's playful, it's deep, and it doesn't shy away from going full fangirl mode. I think that's what makes it so fun to listen to. Thinking back to those early days, what was the vision you had for the podcast and how has it evolved since then?
I'm
laughing because it's like the vision didn't feel like it got time to solidify because it was just like, oh, we're on a rocket ship and we are building this mid-flight. I don't even have time to think about something before we got an email, and it was like above and beyond any glass ceiling I could have put on ourselves.
Yes. Exactly. It was kind of like every expectation that we had shattered just in the fact of like, oh, okay, we were thinking too small.
This is happening.
Exactly. Our original vision when we were just starting it out before it even went live was just two sisters who had refound this passion. And we both are very much in the same mindset of more like that deep dive manner where it's like we loved the structure of that kind of stuff too, because our episodes are very uniquely like 2.5 to 3 hours. That is ridiculous for a podcast episode. And we decided, okay, like let's make them segments. Let's really make sure that these are very well thought out and we're bringing our all to every single episode. And that just is kind of the nature of both of us. Like it wasn't even like a real concrete decision we had to make. It just was. And then when it was just going to be like a fun hobby for us, really and truly. And just a way for us to kind of like have a shared passion, which we didn't really have much of. We weren't extremely close, especially growing up. And then, you know, after we went both to college and kind of started finding more ways of finding familiarity within each other with just our lives, we really were not close until we started reading these books and started really texting all the time. And so it was just a way for us to keep our bond going. And then that first week when it was like, oh my gosh, what is happening? That is when it started over those first few weeks just being like, okay, like, could this actually be like a job? Like, could we make money off of this? And sure enough, we did start doing that. And then it was like, oh my gosh, like maybe this can be our full-time thing. And then it did. And I don't even know how to explain it. Now it's so exciting because like we have huge aspirations for it. Now we have a team of 7 people. 4 of us are full-time, 3 are part-time. And we have so much more that we are so excited to achieve that we are on the way to doing. Yeah.
It's amazing, the power of books, right? And reading.
Yes.
Not only what it brings to us, but seeing your story, how it brought you back together and connected you on a deeper level as sisters. Now you've built this huge team around it and your lives around it. That's amazing. We often start with one idea, but the community and the journey shape it into something different, something bigger sometimes. I feel like one of the most magical parts of the fantasy fandoms is the community that builds around them. And in your case, people aren't just listening. They're engaging, they're sharing stories, debating characters with you. What's been the most special part of connecting with so many readers who share this passion?
I'll go ahead
Just
and start
one?
by just saying, I'll start by saying the community element of it was, I'll say, the best surprise. And
Yes.
it came with the podcast. It wasn't even like a conscious decision that we were like, oh, we have to create a community. It just happened. And when we are asked, you know, like, what's the best advice for a podcast? It's like the community around it. It is the word of mouth, the sharing, feeling like you are part of something bigger than yourself. And it really kind of comes back to feeling like you were saying, kind of like that best friends who you can chat with, where we do talk about in one episode, we can have like, you know, 10 inside jokes and half of them are extremely inappropriate. And then another part of it where we're both crying because we're essentially having a therapy session, you know, about like the emotional and mental health and our own journeys with partners in the past. And, you know, like all of those very real things that we all experience and we find connection with in these characters. And so many people can relate to that too, and relate to us in that way too, and relate to each other.
I'll even throw out one of the best parts about the community is when we are at these live events that we're so very fortunate we get to go to now. It's this reminder of how much bigger it is than just Lexi and I staring at each other's faces for like 6 hours a week on Fridays during recordings. We've had stories of people coming up to us at meet and greets or just in the middle of a ballroom and saying how we were the one thing that brought them joy in a really tough time in their lives, or like an estranged mother and daughter connected over fantasy books, and then now Fantasy Fangirls is something they connect over every single week, and like that's something that brought them back together. Like stuff like that where it just I'm just getting chills.
I know, right?
Like
Me too.
It never ceases to absolutely flabbergast me how much bigger this has become than just Lex and I, which we never would have expected. And I love going out into the community and seeing that and feeling it, because it's such a good reminder when you're stuck in your office 24/7, it can be a little isolating. So that's one of my favorite aspects of the community.
Me too. And the emails and the messages that we get are like, we cry regularly with what we see.
Good cries.
Exactly. Good cries. And like, for instance, a lot of other mothers are going through postpartum, and I know how those late nights go. Like, it's so lonely, and to feel, and for them to say like, we are their friend during that time, during a really difficult time, it means everything. Not just to the mothers who are kind of going through it, but also just like, other people who might have just experienced a breakup, or a loved one is going through a lot of health issues and they're at the hospital a lot. Like, there's so many situations that we have heard, and just feel so honored that they invite us into their lives in that way.
Yeah. And as Nicole said, I think it's important to sometimes make a pause, stand back, and just realize that we as content creators are touching people's lives. I'm a very small creator compared to you, but I have also received messages from people telling me that I've brought them back to reading and how that has helped them. I can only imagine how many messages and how many lives you have touched with your work. Bringing it back to the listeners, I know fantasy fans can be some of the most passionate. They'll cheer, they're gonna cry, argue, they defend their favorite characters like their lives depend on it. That must make for some pretty memorable moments. How do you navigate conversations when opinions in the fandom clash? Have you had any fan reactions that really surprised you or stuck with you in a way you didn't expect?
I'll say yes. There's kind of different avenues of it. One is, I'll say, accuracy. Like, for instance, like especially with Empyrean, we better have our facts straight or hear about it.
Or else.
But that's kind of separate from the opinions and things like that. And part of it is just acknowledging very openly on the podcast, and just like what we bring to our brand is, we are only two people who have these opinions. What we say is only what we think, and we are always welcoming other fan theories or other perspectives and things along those lines. For instance, there are some characters in the ACOTAR series that I'll call them ship wars going on, to put it very mildly. And Nicole and I have our stance, but at the end of the day, we just want everybody to be happy. And so we are very upfront with all of that, because the messages do come in, and we've seen a lot of clashing online. And so we really just try to approach it from a place of open understanding, and this is simply our interpretation of it. So
I'll even throw out a thing that's deeply important to us, whether we are deep diving a book or we're navigating these conversations, is always looking at things from everyone's perspective. So we're deep diving the Kindred's Curse saga right now, and the main character in that series is very much about compassion. And it has been really inspiring, I'll say, to read that series and take a lot of what we are learning in that fantasy book and many other fantasy books, that is about, there is no black and white, right and wrong. There is that middle ground, but a lot of people find a lot of discomfort in that middle ground. So having two people who are very fortunate to have the platform that we do stand in that middle ground and listen to both sides and hear the discomfort of both has been really hard, and also really inspiring for other people to feel like they are being listened to. There is a threshold we have. Obviously, if someone's a jerk, that's a different
get an
scenario.
L.
But if they get an L. There's a different scenario though when someone comes to a conversation who is ready to listen and also be heard. And those are the conversations that I think a lot of fantasy readers who have really taken advice from the books that we read, they are good at navigating.
And I think it's important to keep in mind, and sometimes it's those heated or surprising reactions that remind us of just how much people care about these stories. I think every listener can feel that excitement you have about these worlds through your episodes. And of course, that kind of energy doesn't just happen by chance. Behind every episode, there's a whole process that listeners don't always get to see. Let's be real, making a podcast sound that seamless is never as easy as just hitting record and talking, right? I'm sure there's been plenty of chaos, late night edits, and those moments where you're like, why did we think this was a good idea? So behind the scenes, what's been the biggest challenge or surprise for you while running the Fantasy Fangirls podcast?
Well, first off, how dare you at us like that? So accurate.
Oh gosh, this has so many different answers.
Yes.
I think so. So to provide a little bit of insight, our outlines are very much more like scripts. I'd say about 80% of what we say in every episode is reading from our outline. And of course, we always go on tangents, and we always kind of riff off of each other and whatnot. But that's for the most part. Our outlines are between 20 and 25,000 words every week.
That's clarity is like a novella, basically.
Yeah, it is. It's as long as a novella. Yes. We've had outlines that are literally 200 pages long, and unedited about 5 to 6 hours unedited, and it's a lot every week. It is a lot to take on. For me, I have now an almost 3 and 4-year-old, and trying to be mom while also running this business that very much, I say, was a happy accident, but I know we also, it landed, it was not on my bingo card, let's just say this. Yeah. And so that has definitely been, I'd say, the hardest part is balancing all of the work that just has to be done before our Friday recordings and being a present mother and wife to my family. Another big thing too, as the business has grown, that Nicole, I think that you can definitely vouch for this too, is just all the random businessy things that happen, like things that you wouldn't ever expect behind the scenes. But we do have a, paid subscription community of almost 4,000 people. And there's a lot that goes into all of that. We have a team that we are managing. We have metaphorical fighters that come up very frequently.
Social media, we post 1 to 2 to sometimes 3 times a day, every single day.
It's a lot. It's we kind of feels like we have 2 full-time jobs between the outline as one, and then just running a business with all of that else is also part of it too.
And then we decided to both write books at the same time.
Yes, and then we decided to write books as well. Yes.
That's a good idea.
Just finding a balance in all of that has definitely been the hardest part. And for me, it's just finding the deep work time to be able to work on the outlines to the level that we expect of ourselves.
It's amazing to hear that behind the scenes, because we as listeners don't often hear about that side of things. As an audience, we just hit play and enjoy the conversation. There's so much invisible work that makes it all come together. You've built this space together, which means not just coordinating schedules or editing styles, but also blending different perspectives, personalities, and opinions. And in a fandom, those opinions can get passionate, right? Have there been times when you've disagreed strongly with each other on the podcast? And if so, how do you navigate those moments without losing the fun energy you've created?
Sometimes we turn our, for instance, in fandom disagreements, sometimes we'll turn them into bits. We have a joke about boats in the Kindred's Curse saga that I'm pretty sure will go down in Fantasy Fangirls history as one of our biggest arguments.
But next weekend or this weekend now, we are interviewing the author, and you can bet that is one of our questions. We're taking it to the source at this point.
but the behind the scenes stuff, just the two of us as co-owners of this becoming massive business, there have been times where I'll say we butt heads, but we have never been in a moment where it's you're wrong, I'm right, for multiple reasons. One, we grew up in a family that was very, very insistent on effective communication, and we just naturally took those skills and brought them into Fantasy Fangirls without a second thought. There are conversations where it's like, I see your point. I feel this way. Here's all the things I'm feeling. Now let me hear your feelings. Like we're very good about that. And sometimes if like we absolutely need to, we'll step away for a second and then come back together and have a really effective conversation. We're also fortunate that we have a sanity manager is what we call him. He's really like our business manager and stuff like that. So he's learned how to also communicate to the two of us as well and really become part of this team in that way. But when it comes to us working together, it's become this thing that I'll let you speak on this, Lex. Like it was this yin and yang we never expected to work so well.
Well, Nicole comes from an entrepreneur background, and I came from the corporate background, and it is unbelievable. Like I was a PR manager, a brand marketing manager, like all of that kind of stuff, and Nicole. Like, thank goodness for her when it came to like editing, because I wouldn't have never known the first thing about podcasting. I still am just show up and I do what I'm told still. And same with like social media. Like Nicole has such a knack for all of that, and it really does not come naturally from her. For me, she also has a lot more practice just having been an entrepreneur for years beforehand. But then like when it comes to like the business emails, it's like, ooh, that's my neck of the woods.
Yeah, I don't write emails.
Like business Lexi comes out, and then or like when PR things happen and things like that, like really knowing how to navigate that. So that's really cool. Like we had no idea that was going to work out so well. But when it does come to the fandom, I'd say like there have been a few times where like like I know for myself I can start getting a little bit aggressive, and Nicole will kind of like offline be like off air be like, ouch. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. Like I was like caught up in the moment sort of thing. Yeah. But like we just really care so much about each other's feelings. And we also like at the end of the day, we do feel passionately about these fictional worlds, and we recognize that they are fictional and that they like we love them. We would not have our jobs without them. And my relationship with my sister and business partner is far more important than how big the boats are. As important as those are.
I'm gonna listen to that episode now because I need to know what the deal with the boats are.
Oh, we will definitely make sure the correct person is known.
And then that's another thing too, is that like especially when there's going to be a new release coming out, we have, like Nicole said, made it bits where like we have bets with each other. So for instance, before Onyx Storm came out, we had like a whole list of almost 20 bets.
It was like 25
and so it was like
that.
like kind of like our disagreements, like we take it to the fans, or we take it we just make it all fun. In good fun. Yeah, exactly. And we do get a little bit competitive when one of us wins or not wins, but it's again at the end of the day, it's all in good fun. Good fun.
Yeah, and I think it's really admirable. I have two sisters. We are really close, but I could never imagine myself owning a business with them. We would kill each other. Like seriously, we would kill each other.
We thought the same until we were like, I think there's no going back now.
Yeah, it's like I think we're stuck together at this point.
But it's really nice that despite you having disagreements, you always try to keep it fun and respectful with each other. That's, I think, the important part. As Lexi said, it's at the end of the day, it's fictional worlds and fictional characters. You are real. Your relationship is real. So it's nice that you have that as a priority. And thank you for pulling back that curtain on what it really takes to make the show happen, because as listeners, we don't often realize how much work goes into making each episode. Especially now hearing you have 100-page scripts you have to follow and organize and everything. Yeah.
I think we learned that our Iron Flame coverage was longer than Iron Flame itself.
Wow.
Just our outlines.
Yes.
It was definitely humbling.
Imagine when you add the fourth wing, Onyx Storm.
Yeah. In fact, I think we even told Rebecca that when we had the opportunity to talk with her. Yeah, she's like, what?
We're a little crazy, but in the best way. She's fun. We love her.
For you, it must be more than just the technical side. It's also the balance. You're fans first, but also host guiding a bigger conversation. That's a tricky line to walk. How do you find that sweet spot between fangirling as readers and creating episodes that are engaging and thoughtful for your audience?
That's a great question.
It is. It's so funny because like I think there's, I'll say, different types of fans, and Nicole and I are both very much in the same
analytical
category of a fan, like where it is very much like we are fans and we always want to know more. Like that's where it comes in with like after we finish a book, we want to know the theories about it. I want to know all of lore and the histories and all of that kind of stuff. And that's just part of that fangirlingness where it's just like, oh my gosh, I just can't get enough of it. And so that's really how we take it to the episodes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I'll even throw out, I think one of the ways we really lean into that fangirling that people have resonated with as making FFG a staple for themselves is the theories that we bring into the table. Because a lot of people don't have a full-time job of going down a Reddit rabbit hole and seeing where the cauldron came into play and all of these different things. And not the cauldron.
Cauldron lore still haunts me.
But having that be such a staple element of the episode's theories. We also do battle walkthroughs, which I think that's something we didn't really, I'll say, coin as like this is a part of the outline. We like call it the battle walkthrough until a few books ago.
I think it was Iron Flame that we really started coining that, but we really started doing it in Fourth Wing. And it's kind of like especially when there are battles or when there are big action sequences, a lot can get confusing or like disorienting and things like that. And it's not about the writing style. It's just there's a lot going on. And so you might miss somebody got injured or this one little foreshadowing nugget that is going to play a big part later on or whatever that might be. And so that's where we love to then kind of walk through all of that too. Not in a recap-y way, but just in okay, here's everything we need to know about this scene.
Yeah. Well, Onyx Storm is a really good example. There's the last battle, and specifically the last few chapters, we had to do a battle, what we call battle checkpoints, where it's like, okay, at the top of each new quote unquote scene, here's where everyone is. Next scene, here's where everyone is. Here's who's moved. Here's who's in the same place. And if you've read Onyx Storm, you know the very specific reason why we did that.
Yeah.
I'll say too, like, we would not be doing what we do if we did not have this passion. There are some episodes where it might not be our favorite stretch of the chapters, and I can really feel that in my energy that week. And it does feel like I have to dig a little bit deeper. I might be behind in my reading because I was not as excited to read that one part of it. And of course, we love all the books that we deep dive. We would not be able to deep dive these books if we didn't love them. And I recognize this difference for myself when I'm deep diving a part that I am passionate about versus a part that I do kind of have to struggle, and it's just like, okay, just got to get this done so I can get to the more fun part here. And there are those episodes that always do happen, but we also just like kind of know ourselves, and that's where we are able to rely on the foundation that we have already created with this fandom, with the passion that we have. And then they actually end up being some of our favorite episodes because we like literally just like crank up the energy that much more because we kind of have to, at least for myself. I don't want to speak for you, Nicole.
I agree with what Lexi said. There's different types of fans. I love reading and I love getting into theories, but made by other people. Sometimes I hear your theories and I'm like, did I even read the book? How did I not see that? It surprises me every time because I think I'm a pretty analytical reader. I pay attention to everything and I'm just like, where did that come from? I didn't read that. So I'm thankful for fans like you who have the time and the brain power to actually come up with these theories and these like deep dives. For you, it must be like walking a fun tightrope where one misstep and you could totally go off on a 2-hour rant about your favorite character or a plot twist. Honestly, I think that's what makes the podcast so relatable because we've all had those daydream moments where we just want to jump into our favorite books. So speaking of which, let's have a little fun. If you could bring someone from your favorite world into your podcasting space and co-host episode with them, who would it be and why?
Okay, I want to give 2 answers. One are like together, Lex, you and I. One that is just like utter chaos, like the chaos gremlin, and one that would actually be like a very analytical.
Okay, yes. I love this. So yes. Oh gosh,
chaos gremlin though. Carrie and Swift, I could see being.
That's a really good one.
Good one. I was gonna say Riddick would be another great one too.
Yeah.
When it comes to analytical. Analytical, I think Violet might be a really good person for analytical.
Oh, that's good. I was thinking like Reese. just given how chess master he can be.
Yep.
But maybe that's also just me just wanting to stare at his pretty face for 6 hours. I'll take Violet. Yeah, I think Violet and Riddick would be a really honestly, the both of them together would be a dynamic.
Yes, that would be like, yeah,
dynamic.
she would be able to kind of bring us back in. Either her or even Ree would be another good one, but I'm going to say Violet for her studious nature there. She would be really great for the analytical. Karen Swift or Riddick for the chaos gremlin. I mean, I would love my boy Cassian to be there somewhere.
I'm shocked it took you this long to say
Well, you jumped in first, so.
I would definitely pick Nesta. I know she's a polarizing character, but that's exactly what I want her next to be. She doesn't sugarcoat anything. She says what she thinks. And I feel that honesty would bring such an edge to a podcast conversation.
I agree.
I feel like
that would be
really
another good one.
Like a hot takes episode.
Yes.
Where it's just like hot takes, and then like we say hot takes to her, and then she has to say her opinion on them, which
that would be amazing. I love how you both live and breathe these stories. You're not just talking about books, you're sharing the excitement, the wonder, and sometimes even the chaos of being a fan. You have this way of keeping people excited about the books you're covering, but thinking about that energy makes me curious about what the next chapter for the podcast itself. So what's next for Fantasy Fangirls? Do you have any upcoming plans or projects you're excited about? How do you see the podcast growing in the next couple of years?
I'll speak from the podcast side of it. We are just about to deep dive Quicksilver by Callie Hart. We're so excited, especially because Callie's going to be on board for it. So we're going to have like a segment called Call a Callie. And then we're going to immediately go into Brimstone, the sequel to Quicksilver. However, we're really excited because we are actually launching a new show under the Fantasy Fangirls Network, named TBD, but it is going to be hosted. Should we say who's hosting?
Yep,
by?
let's say it.
Okay.
This contract is signed.
That's true. Contract is signed. It is going to be hosted by our sanity manager, Hayden, as well as the one and only Stephen Walker. And they are going to be going through Mistborn very much as a book club style. So it'll be a chunk of chapters at a time. And unlike Fantasy Fangirls, where it's spoilers from the first episode for the entire Booker series, it's only going to be spoilers for those chapters that they're covering at the time. So it's much more read-along style.
I love that. I'm so excited.
Yes.
Oh
and
my
so the fun
gosh.
part of that is going to be Hayden has already read all of the books of that series. So he will kind of be like, I'll call it the Fantasy Fangirls avatar, who already knows everything and is, not saying spoilers, but is able to kind of guide the conversation in that way, especially when it comes to the very dense lore and character arcs and things like that. And then Steven is going to be reading along as he does it. So he's going to be like the avatar for the reading along. And so he's not going to have that extra insight into what happens next. And so it's going to be a really fun dynamic between the two of them.
Excited.
That sounds so fun. I'm really excited for it to come out.
Thank you. Yeah. And then as far as just other things too, we have big plans for what FFG is going to turn into. I won't give too much away because there's still a lot going on in the background, but we really want it to be much more of like I'll call it multimedia company. It's already not just a podcast anymore, and we really want to open that up to much bigger. The website is going to be a very big resource for readers when it comes to fantasy lore, like cheat sheets for world building and all sorts of stuff like that. And we, while this is definitely the first show that we will be having a part of our network, we're excited to see how else that could happen too in the future. Of course, with the new releases coming out, TV shows hopefully coming at some point. There's a lot on the horizon, and it's like, oh my gosh, like it's crazy to think that it's like this is still just the beginning.
Yes.
More live shows. We have such an appetite from our audience that they want more live shows from us, so we're really focusing on that in the future. So much exciting stuff. Yes.
I'm really excited to see what's next for the Fantasy Fangirls. This has been such a fun conversation. Thank you both for being here on Parenthesis, sharing your passion for fantasy, your behind-the-scenes stories, and just letting us peek into the worlds you love. I know our listeners will be just as inspired as I am to keep exploring new books and fangirling along the way. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a chance. Is there anything else you'd like our listeners to hear from you? Any final thoughts, shout-outs, or advice for fellow fans and podcasters?
I'll say if you're itching to start a podcast or you're itching to start any kind of creative outlet like a social media page, podcast, blog, stuff like that, um, the big thing, like we've been saying throughout this conversation, yes, love, love, love what you do and bring that unique twist to it.
Yeah.
I think that one of the reasons Fantasy Fangirls popped off in the way that it did is because we had that unique twist on romantasy books where it was that very structured conversation in the deep dive of the lore. And as you are looking into that, what is your own unique spin that you can take? It doesn't mean it never has to be done before, ever, ever, ever. We live in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Those ideas are few and far between, and Lord, good luck. But if you have something that you're like, I haven't really seen this in my space, go for it.
Yep.
Go for it with your whole heart.
I'll say too, something that I meant to touch on earlier is the power of positivity. In
Yes.
the bookish space, especially recently, it has felt like a bit of a toxic echo chamber. And that is not a blanket statement whatsoever. It is some vibes that a lot of people have been feeling lately. And one thing that we really pride ourselves on, and something that is feedback that we consistently get that does separate us from others, is that we are always strive to be positive, even when we disagree with each other, with others' opinions, or even if we didn't particularly like a book that we might have read. I know that there are accounts where they do things differently, and that's fine for them. And when it comes for us, positivity has really made a big impact, because we need more positivity. We need more light. We need more laughter. We need more looking to find that middle ground with one another versus just taking sides with the black and white. And so that is something that really that we love and is a big value of ours, and we always encourage others to do that as well there. So
Y con esto llegamos al final de este episodio de Paréntesis. Gracias a todos los que nos escucharon por acompañarnos, y especialmente gracias a nuestras invitadas, a Lexi y Nicole de Fantasy Fangirls, por compartir su pasión, su historia detrás del micrófono y su amor por los mundos de fantasía. Espero que este episodio los inspire a seguir explorando libros, fangirleando y conectando con sus comunidades de lectores. Nos vemos en el próximo episodio.